Okay, so the GTIA, you represent what we might call a broad cross-section of the tech ecosystem. And maybe we can start with just your thoughts as to how you see, the organization's role evolving over the next, I don't know, couple of years. Yeah, give us some thoughts as to what direction you're headed.
Sure. Thank you, Phil. I mean, this is an extremely exciting time for this organization. After the rebrand and the sell-off of the CompTIA assets and certification business and the rebranding just this year of 2025 to GTIA, I think we're extremely excited with the progress already made and the support from our membership globally on now our sole focus on the value to IT service channel members and vendors and distributors and associates across the globe. So I think there's no better time to be a member here, and we're excited about the future.
Okay, and in terms of that future, I mean, what would you characterize as some of or the biggest challenges that technology associations like yourselves face today? I mean, you've got to sort of keep everyone happy, ITSPs, MSPs, vendors, distributors. How easy is it, and what are the challenges, and how easy is it, I guess, to keep everyone happy?
Yeah, it's obviously a broad demographic servicing the IT channel, but that's what makes this industry so unique, and that's what makes the importance of GTIA global membership so vitally important. The diversity of voices, objectives. This is where we can play a very unique role in the ecosystem and in the community to make sure that all of those voices are being heard. We are in the unique and enviable position of being completely unbiased and completely, not influenced by um, anything other than what's going to service our members to the greatest extent and the greatest value. We're there to watch the trends, to listen to members, to understand the technology evolutions we're going to. You and I just talked about coming into this interview about how even our interaction between press media and vendor and community has changed over the years, such is the case, obviously, for the entire industry. So, as a 25 plus year member of this organization myself and former board member a decade ago, I know firsthand, as many of the members who've been with me for that period of time know, the impact coming together, community, and the organization can have on your personal career, on your personal growth, development, education, and the impact it can have on the businesses that you operate is, I've seen it firsthand, and it's been demonstrated in all the businesses I've been in. And in this day and age, with the adoption of some of the technologies I'm sure we'll talk about, there's no better or frankly more important time for us as the IT services channel globally to be having these conversations and staying very communicative because of the pace of evolution and change. I think we'd all agree is accelerating faster and faster.
Yeah, and what would you say in terms of what the GTIA does, comparing and contrast with other sort of global tech associations? What is it you think you particularly do well that gives the member value compared to, other associations that might be out there?
Yeah, again, I mean, we're uniquely positioned because of the endowment. We're uniquely positioned, non-for-profit is a term, but it is really resident in everything we're able to do and totally just focus on member value. We can be on or ahead of the curve with no financial influence or sponsorship, thesis that we have to abide by. We can solely react and be a part of the conversations, and that's a unique position. And our ability to be able to invest in research that is a derivative of what our members are asking for, what we see they need, the great work that Carolyn April does here as our analyst and our research team, that's unique. There are a lot of great communities of which we embrace and of which we participate in ourselves. And we are really a platform for all of those communities to further accelerate. They all have verticals or sort of I don't want to say silos, but they have a certain focus, and all of them are extremely important. Where we can be a broader, more inclusive organization to bring those communities together. And one example of that, most recently at ChannelCon in North America, we had a pre-day with a dozen other communities that came together and leveraged GTIA, leveraged ChannelCon to have those conversations. So between research, between our unbiased and autonomous position in the marketplace and our global look and global research. That's a unique position that we're enviable to have as well.
Okay, and you referenced there ChannelCon stateside, but we're not far off ChannelCon EMEA, where you're bringing together obviously the community, the ITSPs, MSPs, vendors, distributors even, and other associates. What is exciting you most about this year's event? What are you looking forward to the most, if you like?
Yeah, well, Phil, this is our first ever ChannelCon EMEA, and we are super excited with the inaugural. This year, just a few months ago, we held our first ever ChannelCon under the brand of GTIA here in North America. And a few of the things that we really wanted to establish as the new GTIA and the new ChannelCon, although we've been doing those events for decades, it was important, first and foremost, in North America to set a new standard, to make sure our members understood the new direction and the new commitment of GTIA to member value, to resources, to research, to advancement. And we had some pretty big wins here in North America, including, value of the entertainment we brought, value of the number of sessions, the cross section of expertise, not only from a content perspective, but across the board. A few of us have been in this industry for a couple of decades or more, and our voices, I think, are vitally important. But one of the things I've always, appreciated about this organization is the youth, the new voices, the new insights that come in, and we really doubled down on that at ChannelCon North America. And coming into our first EMEA, we've replicated many of those themes, whether it's having Sir Stephen Fry and Sir Bob Geldof as two of our keynote speakers. That's pretty exciting onto itself. There's a great debate on which is even more exciting than the other, but more importantly, the voice of the EMEA market, of which I've had the opportunity to participate in over the last few months and get over a couple of times and meet our executive councils. They are as passionate as the rest of the globe, and being new, there's an additional sense of pride and drive in those markets, and couldn't be more excited to get over there and have these conversations with our members.
Okay, and I guess as well, I mean, you're bringing, as we said, a lot of different sort of diverse stakeholders together. How easy is it to make sure that all of them get sort of meaningful interactions? And I guess they're all there to get some business outcomes. So is it difficult to match up everything for all those different groups, or is there a way that you're able to do that?
Yeah, certainly a focus on it. Is it difficult? No, if you're focused on it. And it's one of the things that we've really doubled down on and looked at internally, Phil, is to make sure that we understand a couple of things for our members. First, understanding that we're not for profit, they are. Every member is running a for-profit business, other than some of the work we do on the charitable side with the foundation. But we have an obligation to deliver on what we call our fourth pillar, which is advancement. Every member needs to be getting a return on investment. And that is important, whether it's the distributors who are part of the membership community, the vendors, the emerging technologies, the IT service providers themselves, the associates. Media has an incredible role to play. The great work that you have done over the decades, getting the message into the market. Should not be underemphasized, the impact you've had personally in that market, and sharing the stories of technology through MSP channel insights and so on. But making sure we've got that single focus on each of the member, whether it's in a vertical or community, But most importantly, the real value is bringing all those voices together and coming together as a trade association and being able to not just be exposed to new technologies or learning from the IT service providers how they're delivering new value and new services to their customers or the challenges that they are facing, but all of us coming together in the broadest sense is, I think, adds incremental value to everyone.
Okay, and in terms of any particular emerging themes or technologies that are going to be featured at ChannelCon EMEA 2025, are there any in particular you'd pick out as maybe having the likely biggest long-term impact? Yeah, anything you can share on that?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty global acceptance right now that the impact of AI, both tactical and from a reality standpoint, is at the forefront of most of the conversations we're having. And that we've gone through this as an industry so many times, whether it's the cloud, managed services, cyber, big data. There has always been these impacts, they go all the way back to the days of the internet, and the impact that that had for the reseller into, solution provider sort of evolutionary period. So AI is top of the conversation cycle right now, but it's also intertwined with, how does that affect cybersecurity? We are certainly not done in the cybersecurity conversation, and AI, unfolds new challenges, new attributes that we have to be aware of. So there's lots of conversation about AI and its impact. However, again, we're not done with cyber. We're not done with cloud. We're not done with new business models. We're not done with the new demands being put on the IT service provider community from their customers. They are evolving as quickly, as the industry and as the technology is, and their demands and interests and desires and outputs are ever evolving. So, our Carol and April here at GTIA just released new research on the buying habits and trends for the SMB, the small medium business, and they're changing as fast as our industry. So again, it's another incremental value of why we need to come together and have all these conversations and understand all the perspectives.
Okay, and in terms of, I guess the AI, as you say, no sort of secret how important that is, cybersecurity and maybe cloud. I mean, in terms of from your perspective, what channel partners? I mean, there's lots of opportunities. I guess there's lots of challenges. Have you got any sort of thoughts or advice as to where they should be devoting their energy? I say cyber is obviously not new, but it's rapidly evolving. AI is perhaps, everyone wants to do it, but maybe doesn't know. But just your thoughts as to how the channel
Yeah.
could be addressing some of those
Yeah,
challenges.
the membership is really talking a lot about business outcomes and the success for the customer. I mean, these are themes, Phil, that we've talked about for years and decades, but I think the what I'm hearing from members, both on the technology side, those who are building new innovative technologies, they've really got a new appreciation, a new dedication to the outcome for the end user, the outcome called customer success. We have always continued to strive in the IT services community to increasingly show value as automation took over, as everything was available on Google. What is my relevance as an IT expert on behalf of the customer? That has continued to evolve. So continuing to focus on how we build trust and relevance, how we deliver business outcomes, not the technology, but the actual business outcome. The technology that enables that outcome, that's your expertise, that's your secret sauce. But if you're not able to understand the business outcome, this is a theme I've heard from our ITSP members over and over again, and talk about, operational efficiency. It was one thing when it was mystery and technology and you were just the guru who could come in and help. But we're getting a pretty sophisticated buyer now who is, business owners who've grown up in the world of tech, who have a better comprehension of industry. And certainly our kids, I still go to my son for technical assistance, just because he's grown up in it, and that's an attribute. So trust, relevance, and business outcomes, I think, are the major themes outside of AI and cloud and cyber that we're really focused on.
Again, I'm also wondering, I mean, sort of geopolitics. There's been a bit of a pushback, shall we say, when it comes to sort of climate change, sustainability. But is that still, do you think, important? Sustainability, circularity, are they still very much on the agenda for the channel? And if so, I mean, how does the GTIA help members address those issues? Do you think it's still high up on the agenda for folks?
I do, I do. A global view with a local impact sort of mentality is important. And there's a couple of advantages for being a global organization for the local communities in which we operate. There is certainly geopolitical impact, always has been, always will be, ebbs and flows, and but it has always had a significant impact on either a certain geography or the global economy. So it's something we need to be aware of and talking about. Sustainability from market to market can be at different stages of evolution. So again, having that global viewpoint, just in the last 6 months for me, Phil, I came out of an organization where had partners in 250 countries around the world, and thought I had a pretty good view of the global impact. But when you step into GTIA and spend the amount of time, hours, and travel that we do in this organization, you get a renewed sense of how each of those markets are different or have views on what's happening differently or evolving at a different pace. And it's incredibly insightful and powerful to have that insight and be able to look at it regionally, but with a global lens.
Okay, and in terms of, I mean, you mentioned earlier the fact that the younger generation are much more, shall we say, familiar with digital technologies, and therefore their expectations are maybe different when they come to the workplace. So, bearing in mind that sort of transition and the expectations for digital transformation, how do you see the sort of global MSP, ITSP landscape evolving to meet those, shall we say, heightened customer expectations?
Yeah, it's again, I'll harken back to some earlier comments. This is why I think community is more important today potentially than it ever has been. Again, many of us have thrived with the community, viewpoint and agenda into the marketplace. But things are changing so rapidly, and new influences, and one of those being the sophistication of the buyer now and the technical knowledge of the buyer. So arguably, it's as important now that we're coming together and as IT service providers, for example, how are you showing more value? How are you building that trust and that relevance? And it can even change from vertical to vertical. AI is we know going to be widespread. However, as with any new technology, there are certain verticals or certain areas that will set the standard for adoption and set the early adoption, because it is just the obvious areas, wherever those may be. So being aware of that, but then everyone will follow. So how do we learn and listen and identify those early opportunities for success, and then hey, this vertical is going to come next, and here's why, and here's what we learned about our last experience with deployments and how we can always improve.
Okay, and maybe in terms of, I mean, it's an attractive market, I guess, for people to get into. So for people looking at it, and maybe as well for those in it, in terms of how they stay relevant, any sort of advice to them? Because there are lots of ways of doing it. You can specialize, I guess, in a technology. You can specialize in a vertical, etc. And I think I'm right in saying that collaboration is more important. People are realizing that they potentially can't do everything. Just any advice you can give to either people looking at the market to get in there, or folks that are maybe in there but struggling perhaps to see a way forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting because that has been a common sort of evolutionary view. You know, for many, those incumbents who have, let's say owned an IT service provider business for years, if not decades, they have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they have the experience, they've seen it all, they've weathered the changes and the evolutionary changes. Does that put them at an advantage, or some say disadvantage? Because that also comes with baggage, that also comes with legacy systems, that also comes with almost tiredness to be able to continue to change as much as they've had to, and as there's some fatigue set in, the opportunity for somebody coming in new, although you won't have the experience and the war wounds and the scars and all plus all the wins that you had along the way, you also can come in with a very new and fresh perspective. Um, and those, specifically speaking for GTIA, those members are invaluable to the conversation, and why we're excited, with what we're doing around the community aspect. They can challenge the status quo. They can come in with unique ideas. They're not carrying the legacy baggage of all the things I've described there. So that's exciting. And you saw in the early days adoption of managed services, those who have been resellers and IT solution providers, traditionally, did they have an easier time or a harder time transitioning to MSP? Where those who came in fresh and new said, "Oh, I'll pick up an RMM, I'll pick up a PSA. I understand recurring revenue model. I'm not having to ask my customer to change from one model to a next. I can go in with a fresh perspective." And there was many IT service providers who started new that I saw accelerate arguably past great businesses, great incumbent IT service providers, and others who were incumbents who transitioned well and leveraged their experience to accelerate. So again, I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to watch the next generation coming in. My son, I'm talking to a lot of colleagues who now have kids entering into their kids entering into this industry, and exciting to watch how they're both leveraging, the expertise and maybe some of the experience we have, but bringing a fresh new perspective to the market as well.
Again, and maybe just finally, I mean, obviously you've got a huge role in terms of shaping the channel moving forward, but
Mm.
do you think you've also got an important role when it comes to shaping the future of the technology industry? And if so, what do you think your role is compared to the vendors who obviously, I guess, are developing the technologies, the distributor, everything? Yeah, just how you see your role in the overall technology industry.
Yeah. Again, there's a couple of attributes here that is unique for us here at GTIA. I'm very excited. We had 165 vendors at ChannelCon in Nashville. And they weren't just the innovative, great vendors who could afford, sponsorship dollars. They were anybody who was playing in this industry because of our unique membership, value and pricing model, and just being inclusive. We have the unique ability to maybe expose new emerging technologies faster than other areas, and provide the ability for those innovators to join the conversation. I think again, they're such an integral part. I started my days in early days of backup and early days of remote monitoring and management. And, we weren't well funded new technologies, but competitors, we came together to help, support each other to get into the market. And GTIA provides that value. So that's one role that we play. The second is the unbiased research. That we can invest in, and we have the capacity to do and be future looking and not influenced by, and I was a vendor for 30 years. I get it. I understand it. We're driving great initiatives in technology, but we are in the unique position to say, hey, members want to look at this. Members want to look at specifically how AI is impacting cyber, or what the future of cloud might be. Or they really need to know what the end users are thinking about these things. We can go in and do those. So I'm excited about the research. And then community. Again, I think we've touched on it numerous times through today's conversation, but the impact of being able to come together at things like ChannelCon EMEA, our member community meetings, our overall communication throughout the year. I think there's no more important time in the global ecosystem than to be having these conversations collaboratively together. So that's what I'm really excited about as we look forward to the impact of new technologies and the adoption.
And maybe just finally, do you think that for the foreseeable future, the sort of service provider model that we've arrived at is the way forward, or can you see anything that, well, no, if not threaten, but will suggest, where the next development might be, or do you think it's a logical place for the industry to arrive at?
Yeah, haven't been in this for multiple decades. The demise of the IT services channel has been talked about almost with every new technology
Oof,
evolution.
yeah.
We went through it in managed services, we went through it in cloud. We certainly are talking about it in AI. We talked even about the internet and what it was doing from that transition from reseller to value-added reseller, where margins were being squeezed in services. I do not prescribe to the doom and gloom in any of those cycles, and have been proven thankfully right. If anything, they've all accelerated the need, the impact, and the importance of our industry and of the channel. And I think for the foreseeable future, AI is going to take us on our next journey here. It's going to have a massive amount of change. It will impact the businesses of the IT service provider, absolutely, but focused on business outcomes, focused on value to those customers. The SMB market is strong, vibrant. There are reports it's now bigger than the enterprise as an industry, as a total addressable market. And that's not going to go away. The reliance and the need. And the last thing I'll say is there aren't 1,000 end users coming to ChannelCon, for example, to learn about emerging technologies. And for me, this is the big differentiator and why our role as IT service providers is secured, because those IT service providers are the ones investing time, resources, effort, and gaining the insights of what's happening. Small, medium business owners have a business to run, and can't invest the time and resources to understand the technology trends that may be coming down the road. They rely on the channel to do that on their behalf.
Okay, I mean, it's been brilliant to chat, and you've shared so many great insights into what's going on and a little bit about what you think will be going on into the future. So, Dan, just very grateful for the time you've given me. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate the conversation. Enjoyed it much. Thank you.